This week's episode of RECAP will cover two incidents that took place during a week that was truly eventful. These events are the killing of yet another group of people from the Amhara ethnic group, as well as the alleged attacks by the TPLF on the Ethiopian Defense forces based in the Tigray regional state of Ethiopia. RECAP Ethiopia will cover all issues related to the incidents to the best of its ability. However, due to the developing nature of both stories at the moment, it is important to note that key updates that occurred after the episode of RECAP Ethiopia was filmed on Thursday, November 5, 2020. I'm Wangil Tamene, and this is RECAP Ethiopia, your one-stop shop to get weekly updates of major stories in Ethiopia. The Prime Minister of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia, in a televised statement on November 4, 2020, stated that military forces of the Ethiopian government have been ordered to move towards the Tigray regional state following an attack on the night of November 3, 2020 by forces of the Tigray regional state on the Ethiopian Defense Force based in the region, also attempting to loot the army base. The Prime Minister identified the attack as an act of traitors, recalling the loyal services the military forces in the regional had given to the people of Tigray for over 2 decades. The Prime Minister also called on the people of Tigray to stand behind the country's military forces during its operation in the region. The concerning situation between the federal and Tigray regional governments has become violent. The Council of Ministers later issued a state of emergency on November 4, 2020, which was adopted into law by the House of People's Representatives on November 5, 2020. The state of emergency introduces a state of emergency task force led by Chief of Staff of the Ethiopian Military General Adam Mohammed and accountable to the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. The state of emergency is expected to last for the next 6 months, territorially applied in the entirety of the Tigray regional state. In addition to that, 4 generals, namely Lieutenant General Bach Adabeli, Lieutenant General Yohannes Gebrameskel, and Lieutenant General Abebaw Taddese, have been recalled into duty by the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. Chairperson of the TPLF and President of the Tigray regional state of Ethiopia, Dr. Debretsion Gebramikael, had held a press conference where he stated that the Tigray region does not wish to go to war, but will do so if provoked by the federal government or any other force. The regional state believes it is exercising its right to self-rule under the Ethiopian constitution, while the federal government believes in the election on September 4 and the action of the party are contrary to the Ethiopian constitution. Because internet and phone services were cut off on Tuesday night, not much information is available about the situation in the north. The US presidential race is still underway as Democratic nominee Joe Biden is leading the race to secure 270 electoral votes necessary for securing the presidency. However, the winner of one race for one of the seats of the City Council in Austin City in the state of Minnesota has concluded. Obala Obala, an Ethiopian refugee naturalized as a US citizen a year ago, has become the first black delegate to hold a seat in the City Council of what had traditionally been a white-dominated state. Obala Obala, who fled Ethiopia to neighboring Kenya following ethnic-based clashes in 2003, had spent 10 years in the Kakuma refugee camp. Obala was then relocated to the United States in 2030. Obala only received his citizenship a year ago, after which he had been campaigning to be elected to the City Council since the beginning of the year. He beat candidate Helen Jahar by over 14 points, after which he said this victory can be taken as a sign of hope for refugees like me who think the American dream to be dead. Obala identified the job creation, housing, and affordable childcare as his priority policy areas. On Monday, November 2, 2020, it was reported that the OLA, aka OLF Shane, a rebel group that defected from the Oromo Liberation Front, had allegedly carried out an attack in the Guliso Wereda of the Gimbi zone located in the Oromia regional state, killing ethnic Amharas following the departure of the military forces from the area. To date, there is still no confirmed number of victims following the attacks by the rebel group, which has been associated with other attacks in recent times. Initial reports on social media put the number of victims to be over 200. The military forces were said to have left the area hours before the alleged OLF Shani forces arrived to carry out the attacks by taking the victims to a school under the guise of a meeting before opening fire. The commissioner of the Oromia Police Commission, General Ararsa Mardasa, also issued a statement claiming that the killings were conducted by the OLF Shani but coordinated by the TPLF. The commissioner stated to the media that it has evidence that the assailants had received training from the TPLF in Meghalli on multiple occasions. The commissioner said that the number of victims stood at 34 at the time, with 11 people missing and over 50 homes and schools burnt by the assailants. The commissioner stated that the police and other security forces were deployed in the area to restore peace and bring attackers to justice. In a press conference issued on Monday, the head of Communications Affairs Office of the Oromia Regional State, Getachew Balcha, confirmed that the attacks were in fact carried out by the group known as the OLF Shani. Getachew said that the attacks do not represent any ethnic group. To the contrary, he said that the attacks were carried out by the OLF Shani with the support of the TPLF, stressing that such attacks were not in line with the Oromo culture or the Ethiopian one. The head of communication considered that the regional state is not carrying out its duties of protecting all Ethiopians in the region, stating that it is not acceptable for the region to continue issuing reports and statements as frequently as this without any concrete action. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed also expressed his sadness through his social media accounts, stating that he condones attacks being carried out on Ethiopians based on their identity. The Prime Minister also accused certain unnamed political groups of intending to create havoc within Ethiopians by carrying out attacks such as that, also stating that there are individuals within the government structure who are complicit with such actions as well. Dr. Abiy Ahmed assured the public in his message that security forces were dispatched to the area to take proper measures on perpetrators as well as restore peace in the area, also calling on Ethiopians, political parties, security forces, academicians, and others to stand with the Ethiopian government in the measure it is taking and will take in the future. Government institutions such as the House of People's Representatives also issued statements condemning such attacks. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission condemned the attacks, calling on the government to take appropriate measures, reporting a similar number as government, but speculating that figures could be higher than that. Amnesty International also issued a statement regarding the killings in the East Wallagga zone of the Oromia Regional State, questioning the departure of the military forces hours before the attacks occurs with no warning or explanation. Amnesty reported the number of victims to be 54, higher than the number reported by the government authorities. In relation to the attacks, the regional director for East and Southern Africa of Amnesty International, Dipros Muchena, said, "This senseless attack is the latest in a series of killings in the country in which members of ethnic minorities have been deliberately targeted. The fact that this horrendous incident occurred shortly after government troops abruptly withdrew from the area is unexplained circumstances raises questions that must be answered," and added that the Ethiopian government must step up in its efforts to end armed attacks on minority groups and protect their lives and stop the destruction of homes not only in Oromia but across the country. The Ethiopian community in and out of the country reacted immensely following the news, with users online sharing their frustration at the recurrent killings of members of the Amhara community, as well as the situation of peace and security in the country. Addis said on Twitter, "I can't believe how little support there is for the 200 plus people that died because of the Amhara genocide. I'm not one to speak on the Ethiopolitics or ethnic conflict, but this was my tipping point. Ethnic cleansing has become a routine occurrence. I've never seen such little support," sharing her concern over the recurrent nature of the attacks against members of the Amhara ethnic group. Another Ethiopian called Hone Mandefro, on the other hand, said that the recent attacks was part of a series of attacks against the Amharas, claiming that since July 2020 alone, at least 650 civilians have been massacred for being an Amhara, more than 450 in Oromia, 170 in Metakel, 42 in Gurra Ferda, yet the inept prime minister is not willing to even acknowledge their identity. However, the most visibly emotional reaction came from members of the parliament who were in tears during an extraordinary meeting that was held on November 3, 2020. Many members of the parliament called on the House to categorize the OLF Shani and TPLF as terrorist groups under the relevant legislation of the country, also calling on the executive to take appropriate measures and halt any further killings in the country. One member of the parliament said there is no reason Ethiopia will not descend into chaos like many failed states in the world, saying that killing innocent victims in the region has truly broken her heart. The member of parliament requested the competence of the Ethiopian military in keeping peace and protecting citizens, comparing its successful operation in other parts of the Eastern Africa region. The member of parliament said the government's measures have been strongly lacking, cautioning that serious measures need to be taken before the country further descends into chaos. The situation is truly concerning. Since the assassination of singer Hachalu Hundessa, several incidents in different parts of the country have claimed hundreds of lives in ethnically motivated attacks, targeting primarily the members of the Amhara ethnic group as well as Oromo Christians in the Oromia regional state. In the days following the assassination of Hachalu Hundessa, for instance, organized ethnically motivated and gruesome attacks took place in Shashamene and other parts of the Oromia region, claiming the lives of over 177 Amharas, Gurages, and Orthodox Oromos who were targeted for their ethnicity. The human rights institution working on the protection of minority rights, the Minority Rights Group, issued a statement at the time suggesting that the attacks were premeditated and organized, showing hallmark signs of genocide in Ethiopia. At the time, the MRG warned that these attacks were signs of ethnic-based genocide that could subside in the country after a certain period. Another notable area that has been associated with ethnically motivated killings of civilians is the Metekel zone. These attacks also targeted ethnic Amharas, Shinasha, as well as the Agaw and Gumuz communities living in the zone, claiming the lives of over 40 people and displacing over 300 people that live in the zone. The government later announced that it had arrested over 504 individuals in connection with the killings that occurred in Metekel zone, on top of erecting a command post in the zone until the peace and security of the region is restored and citizens' safety is guaranteed. At the time, the Ethiopian Citizens Party for Social Change has said, "A government that fails to respect and enforce the rights of its citizens to live should not have the moral to talk about development and prosperity." Gurra Ferda is another example. In mid-October, over 30 people were killed by armed groups in the Gurra Ferda zone, located in the southern nationalities and peoples of Ethiopia, in recurrent attacks that again targeted members of the Amhara ethnic group. The state government later announced that 54 individuals linked with the attacks, including officials at the zonal and Wereda levels, which also showcased the problem that lies within the government's structure. Contrary to the other incidents, which were ethnic as well as targeted at believers of the Orthodox Christianity religion, however, in the Gurra Ferda attacks, much of the victims were Muslim Amharas.